Hello, class. How are you guys? This is interesting. Can everybody hear me? Hello? Can anybody hear me? Perfect. Um, awesome. So I think we're all just gonna wait for a few minutes until about 3:05, and then we'll get on with today's lesson. So, um, how are y'all doing? How's everything going? This is weird. Let me get my notes out. That's good. Hey, Kieran, I'm doing really well. Um, hey, RJ, things are good. Um, you know, a little boring staying at home, but staying safe, taking care of everything. So that is good. That is good. Let's see, is there a way I can see who all is here? Okay, we have Ben, Kelsey, Laura, Michelle, Tangent Slayer, RJ. Awesome. Well, oh, new person. Who is it? Two new people. Moonlight Real and huh, neat. Oh, there we go. Professor Vortiger. There we are. These usernames throw me off. Pardon me. Let me get some lights going in here. That'll be a little better. There we are. Can you guys see me a little better now? That looks better. I agree. This Muggle technology is throwing me off. Hey, Kalon. How are you? All right. Thank you. Thank you, RJ. Well, I'm glad to see you guys all here. Um, thank you, Jolene. Oh, very nice. Masks for Muggles. That's very good. It's important to have those. Stay safe. Make sure you're wearing those when you go out. Very, very good. All right, guys. Well, I think we've only got. Can everybody see me all right? Hello? Hey, EJ, how are you? Perfect. Okay. It looked like my screen went black for a second. That might have just been an error. Not dead is good. We can see you and hear you. The delay is a little much. Okay. I apologize for the delay. Let me see if I can do anything about that. Okay. My Wi-Fi looks good. I guess that's just Muggle Tech for you. So we'll we'll try and do it as best we can. And if you guys have any questions or you miss anything, feel free to just throw it in the chat, and I'll keep an eye on it and I'll respond to anything that you guys have to say. I think we'll be getting started here in just a few moments. Just waiting for a couple more people to filter in if there are any stragglers, you know. And then we'll get into today's topic, which will be exciting. EJ, no, don't do that. All right. Yeah, let's say we'll get started at 3:05. So yeah, Storm's one of the stragglers. So let's get him in here, and I don't care for it though, EJ. I'm not a fan. Agreed. Let's get everything set up. And just a couple more minutes of waiting. Are you guys excited for class? This is... Yay, perfect. I'm glad. Hey, Ellie. I didn't see you coming. Awesome. I'm glad to hear it, you guys. Just give it about 2 more minutes and then we'll get right into it. I miss you too, Ellie, and I'm excited for you to see it. Ooh, Florida, very nice. Thank you, Maddox. What have I been up to since fall term? Not much, you know, trying to keep up with my studies, doing a little extra work at the Roaring Mouse, help out around the castle. You know, just trying to stay busy. What about you? And then let me just take a peek here, and we should be getting started here in a few minutes. Oh, very nice. Coding a video game and caves. Yeah, EJ. Caves. Caves are interesting. Kalon, that's good. Good to hear that you're keeping up with your studies. All right. It is 3:05 now. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And then anybody who joins later, if you have any questions, just let me know and I'll go back over it. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jasper Glass. I am the head boy at Avistrom, and I'll be filling in for your Defense Against the Dark Arts professor today. So for today's defense class, our topic is going to be legilimency. Can anybody tell me what legilimency is? This will be exciting. I'll give you guys just a minute to RJ, mind reading, sorta, yes. That's actually the first topic. Legitimacy. I'll type it out and we'll so you can see how it's legitimacy. There we go. That was me. I was the Avastrum. I'll tag my my chats from now on. So yes, mind reading sorta is legitimacy. It is the act of magically navigating through many layers of a person's mind and correctly interpreting the feelings they find. Now, yes, Professor Vortigern, that's a little bit closer. The reading of people's thoughts, memories, etc. So Muggles call this mind reading, but most legilimens, people who practice legitimacy, they find that term to be a little bit reductive and incomplete, because it is much more than just simply hearing what somebody is thinking. It is very similar to a brain labyrinth, Ellie, sort of navigating your way through someone else's brain labyrinth. It is an ability exclusive to wizards, but there are some magical creatures who are capable of legitimacy as well, most notably the Wampus cat. So let's move into some history. Are there any questions so far? Anything anybody would like me to answer? And then if not, I'll move into history, and if so, then we'll stay and talk it out. All right, I'm going to move ahead, and if I see a question, I'll come back to it. So it is unknown when legitimacy was invented and by whom, but it must have been pretty early because it predicates the history of Hogwarts, as Salazar Slytherin was one of the earliest known legilimens. Fun fact, the Sorting Hat was enchanted to be able to use legitimacy, which is how it sorts the students at Hogwarts. Now, anybody can learn legitimacy or occlumency, but some, such as myself, are born with a more natural aptitude. These people have more of a traditional mind reading ability because their power in it is so advanced. But like with any other skill, talent, and hard work, practice beats hard work. And combining the two makes it very strong. For example, some people are born with beautiful singing voices and they're able to sing just wonderfully. Then there's other people who have mediocre singing abilities. But if the person with the mediocre abilities, they practice every day for 10 years, and the person with the great voice never does, at the end of the day, the person with all the practice is going to be a better singer. Same with legitimacy. There are people with more of a natural aptitude towards it, and but practicing it and exercising it is what's going to make it better. And if you combine the two, then you will be extremely gifted, which is great. So when performing legitimacy, it is a spell that you use. The incantation is legilimens. Let me type that out in the chat. There we go. That's a spell. But with practice and or aptitude, it is able to be performed non-verbally or wandlessly as well. So traditionally, when you're performing legitimacy, you would point your wand at the person and you would say legitimacy. But after a lot of practice, or if you have a natural ability or both, you're able to perform it without your wand and without speaking the spell. Cat Awesome 50 asks, how do you tell if mind reading is a Coincidence or true magic? Well, that's kind of what today's class is on, so we'll get into that. Now, legitimacy is a very powerful magic, and it can be used, like a lot of other magic, for sinister purposes, such as implanting visions. This is very advanced legitimacy and has been known in the past to drive people to madness. This was something that was commonly used by Lord Voldemort. And so it is very important to be very careful, as well as courteous when performing legitimacy. One of the most simple uses and most common uses of legitimacy is for the purposes of lie detection, which is what we'll be focusing on in this class. Other uses include, but are not limited to, delving into one's thoughts, emotions, and memories, modifying any of the above, implanting visions, and influencing the mind and decisions, but not to the level of the Imperious Curse, as well as potentially influencing muscle control and even possibly a full body possession for a short period of time. Now, as you can tell, there are a lot of good that can come from all of those uses and a lot of bad that can come from all of those uses. So, like I said, it's very important to be responsible with this magic. Also, it is most easy to practice legitimacy when meeting eyes with the person whose mind you want to explore. But with practice and skill, it's not necessary, and you can perform it just in the range of the person. You don't have to be looking into their eyes, or even potentially if you have a very strong emotional or magical bond with the person, like the one between Harry Potter and Voldemort. Any questions? I'll wait for a moment. No questions, I'm assuming, so we'll move on. If anybody thinks of anything they have to ask, toss in the chat and I'll answer it. Can anybody tell me what the opposite of legitimacy is? I'll wait a second and then I'll toss it in the chat there. No worries, Tiger. Acclimancy, thank you, Professor Borgern. Very good. So it is the opposite of legitimacy. It is used for closing your mind off to legitimacy. Most basic form of doing that is to just clear your mind entirely. Have a completely empty head. There's nothing for them to see if there's nothing there, right? Now, a more advanced acclimancy involves suppressing only that which you do not want the legilimens to find, which creates a false layer of mentality for the legilimens to look around in and find nothing. This gives them a false sense of security because they don't know you're using acclimancy against them. Question, do you need a license or something to use legitimacy? Is it illegal if used wrong? You do not need a license to practice it, but it should be exercised with extreme caution. It's a very rare brand of magic and is not often used, and if used improperly, it can be considered a crime. But in and of itself, you do not necessarily need a license or it can be illegal if used wrong, but also it isn't inherently illegal. DJ, can the subject tell when they are being read? Sometimes. Typically, if someone points their wand at your face, looks in your eyes and says legilimens, you're going to know what's going on. But if they are more advanced and are able to do it without doing all of that, which is entirely possible, no. You may get like that eerie feeling, where you feel like somebody's watching you or something like that. But it's not necessarily going to be, there's not going to be an alert going off like, hey, someone's hanging out in your brain. Is legilimency the same as oneiromancy? Dream walking? Not necessarily, but it is a different branch of magic, but there are similarities between the two. I'm not entirely familiar with oneiromancy, so I can't speak exactly on what the differences are, but I know just enough to know onriomancy. Perfect. Onriomancy. I know just enough about it to know they're not quite the same thing, but there are a good amount of similarities. And it may be a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not necessarily a square situation. Where elements of onriomancy can be a type of legilimency, but is not all of it is. Can you practice it without your wand? Yes. If you get to a high enough level or have a high enough natural aptitude, then you are able to perform this magic without a wand and without the words, without the incantation. Ellie, do you have to have certain legal permissions to perform this magic? No. But in order to study it, you do have to receive permission from some sort of governing body, whether that be the school or the ministry or however it goes. It is regulated, but not quite as regulated as other forms of magic. DJ asks again, is Obliviate a form of legilimency? Obliviate is a memory charm. With legilimency, if you are skilled enough and given enough time, you can replicate the effects of the Obliviate charm, but it's not the same. Similarly to the onriomancy. Cool. Moving on. Occlumency can also help you resist the effects of Veritaserum. Can anybody tell me what Veritaserum is while I answer this question? Can a legilimens edit a person's memories? Yes, it is possible. It is very uncommon and requires more often than not a degree of natural aptitude as well as years and years of practice. It is possible, but it is very, very uncommon. But it can be done. Most people who do not have a natural ability for legilimency will not be able to achieve that magic anytime in their lifetime. Most people who do have a natural born ability for legilimency will not be able to achieve that in their lifetime. But some will with years and years of practice. And correct, a Veritaserum is a truth potion. So using occlumency, you can potentially resist the influence of this truth serum. So that's a fun fact. All right, so today's activity, which is why I asked you all to be hopefully doing this with a partner. If not, you can just hang around and listen to what other people have to say about their experience and then maybe try it later with someone else. One last question first. Would it be possible to fight someone who has cast legitimacy on you, like in your mind? That is basically the premise of occlumency. Is you're building up mental walls. Basically, to put it in a physical term, it would be like building up walls in your mind for them to not be able to see through, at the same time as them knocking those walls down. So it's just who's stronger, who's faster, who's mentally at legitimacy and occlumency. Occlumency is not a spell. It is not something that you cast. It is a practice that you do. And most occlumens will tell you that they are practicing it all the time, until you have to do it consciously for a while, and then it kind of becomes second nature, similarly to breathing. And so over the course of that time, it's always happening inside of your mind. And you can train it to get better as well, but it is not a thing it is not a spell that you cast like legitimacy. So as you guys can tell, legitimacy and occlumency are dangerous and complex forms of magic, which often require more individual teaching than I'm able to provide while in a classroom. So today we're going to learn how to replicate the effects for one of the most common uses of legitimacy and occlumency, which is to tell if someone is lying or to prevent someone from knowing if you are. I'll answer a question real quick. Would you be able to actually see what they're thinking? That depends. If they're like imagining an apple in their head and they were doing no occlumency and they were allowing you in, yes, you'd be able to see that apple. Oh, I'm frozen. Yes, so you would be able to see the apple, but if they were thinking, like I want an apple, it would be more like hearing the phrase, I want an apple. So it all depends really what's going on in their mind. And it's an interesting experience that cannot exactly be described by any of the 5 main senses. It's sort of like a 6th sensory experience. Thank you, Storm. Yes, a lot of aurors. It's very, very common for aurors to practice both occlumency, primarily occlumency, and some aurors as well for interrogation purposes will also learn legitimacy. And yes, great question, Steiger. You guys have had some great questions so far, so that's awesome. Thank you, guys. So now I'm going to teach you several techniques to detect if someone is lying or not. This will be legitimacy. And then for occlumency, you would take the same techniques and then turn them on their head. Try not to do that instead of seeing if someone is doing that. For example, if one of the indicators that someone is lying is that they twitch their left thumb. If you're the legilimens, you're wanting to look at their left thumb to see if it moves. If you're the occlumens, you're wanting to pay attention to your left thumb and not move it. So yes, here, let me find my place. Perfect. So moving on to the techniques. A lot of these techniques were actually used by the Muggle FBI in their interrogation tactics. So that'll be what we're learning. Many believe that looking away or touching your face could indicate deception, as well as like a grooming gesture, like a hand through the hair or fixing your shirt or like just general fidgeting. These are all potential indicators, but they're not necessarily like surefire. None of these are, but all things to keep in mind, So, yeah, looking away, touching their face, any type of grooming gesture or a general fidget. And then all of the other things are broken down into three categories: fight or flight, cognitive complexity, and perception management. So within fight or flight, you want to note how their body responds to stress, because when somebody is lying, it is likely that they're going to be stressed. So if they were to swallow deeply, like they've got a dry mouth, that could be a sign. A really good, really valuable one is increased adrenaline to the hands and legs. They're lying, and so their body is launching them to fight or flight response. So it's sending extra adrenaline to their arms and their hands, as well as their legs. So if someone is shaking their leg or twitching their hand or moving a lot with their limbs, that could be an indication that they are uncomfortable, which could be a further indication that they are lying. Extra energy is provided to the limbs because your primal brain wants you to fight or run away. But because we have these constrictions of what we're allowed to do, it has to do something else with that energy. And these will often happen when they're preparing to lie, not necessarily like on the lie. Like if they say, oh, I was at Avistrom all day, but they were not actually at Avistrom all day. In the lead up to them saying that sentence would be when that would occur, not necessarily while they were saying it. Now moving on to cognitive complexity. Usually when people lie, they try and keep it simple because they don't want to get caught. They don't want you to question them. They try and keep it just very simple. So if you see someone, they're telling the story in a very complex way, and then there's just one detail where they said, keep it very, very simple. That could be an indicator that that one detail is a lie. Also, a thing that the legilimens can do for the purpose of this exercise is to ask questions, sensory-based questions, because most people only lie in two senses: what they see and what they hear. So if you're able to ask a question about what was the temperature, what did that feel like, what did it smell like, what did it taste like, that could throw them off. And if you see them thrown off, there's a good indicator that they were lying. And then finally, for perception management, when the liar behaves in a way that they think the asker wants them to behave. Such as people know that if they fidget a lot, it might look like they're lying. So they'll sit very still, like unnaturally still. That could be an indicator that they're lying. Also using filler words when asked to recall events, saying like, sort of, almost, kind of, those can all potentially indicate deception, as well as just general changes in body language. These will work really well if you are at least somewhat familiar with the people who you are talking to, because if you are familiar with their body language and you notice a change, that could be an indicator that they're lying. Also, increase or decrease in the pace of their voice or the pitch of their voice. So if they start talking really slow or they start talking really, really fast, that could mean they're lying for that portion. Steiger, yes, change in tone, change in pitch. If their voice gets higher or lower, what they're saying could be untruthful. That's really interesting. Maybe adrenaline to the hands is why cross your fingers when you tell a lie is a thing in the Muggle world, so their hands don't twitch when they lie. That is very interesting. It keeps your hands hidden and out of the way and without moving. That's a really cool idea. And then also, finally, adding extraneous information. When you're telling facts, you simply have to state them. But when you're telling a lie, you have to convince the people that what you're about to say is the truth. So if you're saying, yeah, he was wearing a blue shirt when I saw him, that sounds truthful. But if you say, yes, when I saw him, he was definitely 100% wearing a red shirt. I know it was a red shirt. That sounds more like a lie. So, yeah. Sorry, I'm looking at the chat. I'm going to answer some questions here. If they're lying, would they copy you or other people's moves or faces? It is possible. Some people do that. You could test for it. You know, if you think they might be doing that, you could cross your arms and see if they cross their arms, or, you know, move your eyebrows down, see if they do the same thing, something like that. But it's not necessarily an indicator, because that's a thing that people do in conversation and not just when lies or mistruths are applied. Because when you're engaging in conversation with another person, you will typically reflect each other's body language. So if one of you crosses your arms, the other is very likely to cross their arms. If you have your hands at your sides, the other is very likely to have their hands at their sides, hands in your pockets, and on and on and on. Yeah. All right. So are there any more questions before we move into our activity? I'll give you guys a moment. Yes, Steiger. For some people, it is more of an automatic response, similarly to how people will mimic your tone when you're talking, and occasionally an accent. That's a little less common, but still does happen. Okay, I'll give another minute or so for questions, and if we don't have any, then we'll move on to the activities. All right, so the reason I asked you guys to have a partner with you today is we're going to do two things. First off, you're going to play two truths and a lie with your partner. Does everybody know how to play that game? Say no if you don't. I'll explain it anyway. Two truths and a lie. You look at your partner, you decide which of you is going first and which of you is going second. The one of you is going first is going to say three statements. Two of them are supposed to be true, and then one of them is supposed to be false. And then your partner has to guess which statement is the false one. For example, if I were to play that game, I would say the wall behind me is white. These are not going to be, this is just for example purposes. So the wall behind me is white, my shirt is purple, and this cup is blue. The statement should be harder than that and more personal based. So there's a little bit of a challenge there, but you get the idea. Does anybody have any questions about that activity? And I want each partner to do it once. So one, if you're in a group of two, first goes you, then goes me, then we're done. Just let me know when you guys are done in the comments, and we'll move on. If you guys have a group of three, you can do it that way as well. I would have person A tell the statements to person B. Person B guesses the statements, then person B says them to person C, then person C does to person A. And so on and so forth for larger groups of people if you want to play. Or if you can break it up into groups of 2, like if there's 4 of you, that would be fun too. Steiger, that's a great idea. Talk about what you did today. Make two truthful statements about what you did today and 1 false statement about what you did today. Like I could say, today I took a shower, today I had a cup of tea, and today I took a walk. The false one is that I had tea today. I had coffee. So perfect. You guys go ahead and go with that activity, and then let me know when you're done, and I'll give you about 5 minutes anyway, unless I hear that most people are done. That works too, Steiger. If you guys want to do it that way, where everybody in the room gets to guess, that's perfectly fine too. Or if you'd rather do it with individual partners, that works great as well. Thank you, Professor Wiseacre. And then also, if you guys have any other questions or want to tell me about what you guys are doing or what you guys are saying, toss it in the comments. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to see it, and I'll answer anything I can. It would be nice if there was a microphone connection. I would love to be able to actually talk to you guys, but that's all right. Yeah, if you're doing this with someone who you know very well, it can be kind of difficult because you know what each other is thinking. Oh yeah, that would be awesome. That's a great idea. If you were able to share your practice with us on Facebook, I would love to see those. That would be great. Storm, very nice. That's all right. What were your 2 truths, Storm? The Dark Hunters doing a training for occlumency would be a really good idea, Shadow. We should talk more about that for sure. Maddox 5 for 5 so far. That's good to hear. And RJ, your partner found all your lies. That's all right. That's all right. Some people are better at occlumency, and some people are not, and that is a-okay. Like I said at the beginning, always practice is what makes you perfect. People are not always going to be good from the beginning, but if you keep practicing, you will get better. And Shadow, that sounds great. Do you think you could use legitimacy through text? So that is an interesting question. No, except when you can. If you were like messaging a person, right, and they were your best friend, and you were a very skilled legilimens. So if all of those stars align to make everything work just right, then maybe you could cast a spell and you could try and peer into the mind of your best friend and perform legitimacy. But being able to do it over a long distance is very hard, as well as if you were to do it over a long distance, you would have to A, be very skilled, B, be very practiced, and C, have a very strong emotional or otherwise magical connection to that person, like some sort of magical link between you that would allow for the legitimacy to work across such a distance. So no, unless you can, but it's very, very hard, almost impossible. Ellie guessed all of Latrovas, and Jolene's very mad. For some reason, she says she's going to practice lying in the mirror. That's fair. Oh, Steiger, so like a enchanted book. That wouldn't necessarily be legitimacy. You could do. It would be defense against the dark arts. You would have to. It would be like a curse breaking thing. You'd have to break the curse on the book, and it wouldn't quite be legitimacy, but you could access the truth in the book. Yes. Storm has been roasted by the charms professor. Let's hope his bosses aren't watching this lesson. My truce that I painted this morning that I made in my bed. Very nice. RJ asks, since the sorting hat can use legitimacy, could other items like statues have this too? Maybe they could. It is unknown still to this day how Salazar Slytherin enchanted the sorting hat to be able to use legitimacy. So hypothetically, yes, but no one currently alive knows how. So it is quite unlikely. Great question, RJ. Professor Vortigern has some stocks of Veritaserum. If the Dark Hunters want to practice occlumency, can absolutely do that. Yeah, Steiger, it's a tough. It was a very tricky question. But yeah. Is everybody about done? And we can move on to the next activity. It's similar, but just a little more complex. I'm going to start explaining, and then if any of you need me to explain again, I can. So what I want you to do now is I want you to tell your partners a story. Just a short little 4 to 6 sentence story. And I want you to include, I want it to be entirely truthful, except for one detail. And you pick just one detail in the story that is not true. And then other members of the group, you try and guess which detail it is using the techniques that we've learned about today. If you guys have any questions, feel free to toss it in the chat. Also, let me know how it goes. Steiger, yeah, it is. It's a very finicky magic. It's some things about it appear simple but are complex, and some things appear complex but are actually quite simple. And it does not lend itself well to explanation in a classroom setting. But I still wanted you guys to be able to learn a little bit more about this type of magic that's out in the world. And Professor Wiseacre, thank you. How's it going for you guys? Yes, that is true. One way to make a lie hard to find in a story is to make the story very complicated. So if you're purposely burying a lie inside of a mostly truthful story, and you tell it very complicatedly, it'll be difficult for them to find. In Latrobe, we've known that for a while, but that's okay. Also, I want you guys to keep in mind, the purpose of this class is not to be a good liar. It is to learn how to detect when other people are lying to you. For the group activity, there just has to be some lying involved. I don't condone lying, especially to your teachers or parents. All the stuff I'm teaching you, you have to be responsible using it just as you would with real occlumency or legitimacy. Make sure that you're being truthful to people who you need to be truthful to, and not telling lies, because it's not a good habit to get into. But it could be valuable to know how to lie if you're say throwing a surprise party for a friend and they ask you about it. You tell them, oh, no, there's no, I've got no plans on Saturday night or whatever. That's one thing, but make sure you're always being truthful, especially with your teachers and parents. All right. Yes, DJ. That was some of the stuff I looked at for compiling this class. Was the nonverbal communication cues. Awesome connection there. Yeah, and Latrobe is quite good at seeking out the lies. And yes, as everybody knows, the number one rule of potions, never lick the spoon. Very good. So how are your guys' stories coming? Matic, things are going good? That's good. Does anybody have any more questions or anything? Practically a professional, that's what I like to hear. We're almost done here. I think we'll be ready to wrap up in about 5 minutes. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to ask. I would love to hear them, love to answer them. But other than that, you guys are good to go. This was a great class. I had a ton of fun. we'll have to definitely do this again sometime. Thank you, Kalan. Oh, you guys want me to tell you 2 truths and 1 lie? Okay. Let's do. Oh, thank you guys all. Thank you so much. Okay. I am wearing shoes. I had a quesadilla today, and there's a book next to me. Which do you guys think? Thank you guys so much. And thank you, Professor Vortigern and Ellie. That really means a lot. Good. That's what you're supposed to feel like after taking this class, like a living lie detector. And DJ, what do you think it is? That's correct. I am not wearing shoes. I am wearing slippers. I've got on dress pants and a nice shirt and slippers. Very good guesses, guys. Well, again, thank you guys so much for this great class. I had a ton of fun. I would love to do something like this again sometime. I mean, if you consider slippers shoes, then I suppose I'm wearing shoes, and I just told you 3 truths, but I don't. I think they're slippers. There's a difference. Oh, thank you, RJ. Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to teach you guys some Defense Against the Dark Arts again soon. That would be wonderful. I had a ton of fun. And it seems like you guys had some fun as well. Yeah. Yeah, thank you guys all for watching. It was awesome. Enjoy the other classes that we have this weekend. There's some really cool stuff on deck. I think you guys are going to like it a lot. Next up is Storm's Herbology class, right? And that one should be fun. Unless I'm mistaken as to which one's next. Oh yeah, also if you guys take any videos of you practicing, playing 2 truths and a lie or telling your stories, post them on our Facebook page. It would be awesome to be able to see them. I would love that. Storm's Herbology is at 5. Awesome. Well, you guys all enjoy the rest of the classes. I had a great time today. Thank you so much. And I will see you later. So, bye guys. Thank you again. You guys were great.